Good morning, Dan and Amy. The mechanics of elections are not sexy. It's much more fun to think about and kibitz about two 70-year-old socialists sniping at each other after debate. That's easy.
Oh, I can't hear it enough, really.
All the money spent and all the activism, and what happens if the system is rigged or incompetent? What happens when some people are voting and taking away the franchise, voting illegitimately, and thus taking away the franchise of a legitimate U.S. voter? These are like important questions. If you think elections are important, you want them to be as fair as they are free, right? We've talked about this over months with Mark Hemingway, who's done some really good research on this, including a Federalist piece last year that found, for example, 10 of California's 58 counties have voter registration rates exceeding 100% of the voting age population. In fact, the voter registration rate for the entire state of California, 40 million people, is 101%. That's odd. He also found 8 states, as well as the District of Columbia, have total voter registration tallies exceeding 100%. And in total, 38 states have counties where voter registration rates exceed 100%. And it's not red or blue, it's both. For example, Kentucky, voter registration rate in 48 of its 102 counties exceeds 100%. About 15% of America's counties where there's reliable voter data, that is 400 out of 2,800 counties, have voter registration rates over 100%. That's a real problem in terms of the administration of elections. And since they're state and local matters, you need state and local activism to press state and local election authorities to do their jobs. Well, in Wisconsin, they have an organization doing just that. It's the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. Rick Esenberg is the founder and current president and general counsel of that organization that has been fighting to remove about 230,000 people from Wisconsin's voter rolls that have been found undeserving of continuing to be on those voter rolls. And for more on their activism, I mean, and again, how important is that in Wisconsin, a swing state in 2020?
Well, yeah, fewer than 23,000 votes handed Donald Trump a critical victory. That is so close. That's nothing.
Right. Not to mention how close there are some of their elections for federal and state and local offices, too. Absolutely. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Rick Esenberg. Rick, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Well, good morning. Thanks for having me on.
So, most recently I saw that Wisconsin judge had to hold the state election commission in contempt for its failure to comply with his order to see people that need to be removed from the rolls. What is the state of the case and the basis for the removal that the judge so ordered?
Well, the Wisconsin, like many other states, belongs to a consortium called ERIC that does data matching. I was very pleased to hear that you started out with a citation to Mark Hemingway, who has written some good pieces showing that across the country, not just in Wisconsin, but everywhere, we have lots of outdated registrations. We've got people who are on the rolls, but they don't live at the addresses they're registered at any longer, and they're no longer eligible to vote at those addresses. This consortium, ERIC, does data matching, and it identifies people who have reported an address other than the one they are registered at to a government agency. That indicates that they've probably moved. And Wisconsin law says that when election officials get that type of reliable information, what they're supposed to do is send a notice to the voter saying, look, we have information that you've moved and are no longer eligible to vote for this at this address. If that's in error, please return this postcard to us. We'll continue your registration, or you can go online and you can continue your registration. And if the voter ignores that, then the registration is deactivated. Now, in Wisconsin, that doesn't mean a lot because we have same-day registration at the polls. So if you show up to vote and you didn't move, but your registration was deactivated because you ignored the postcard or you didn't see it, well, you can just re-register right there and cast your ballot. Nevertheless, the Wisconsin Election Commission is refusing to deactivate the registration of those voters, keeping these outdated names on the rolls for, depending upon the situation, 1 or 2 election cycles. And we filed a lawsuit seeking to compel them to follow the law. An Ozaki Circuit Court judge ruled in our favor last month, and then a period of time passed in which the Election Commission refused to comply with that order. We were forced. I've been practicing law for, I can't. It's astonishing that I can say this, but I've been practicing law for almost 40 years. I've never had to move to have government official held in contempt. I mean, even if they disagree, they generally comply. The judge did hold the Election Commission in contempt, but all of that is on hold now because the Election Commission has appealed and the order has been stayed or suspended. And so the matter is now wending through the higher courts in the state of Wisconsin, and we will continue to press our claim that it's really important when you have an election, particularly as hotly contested as they are, when people feel very strongly about who's the winner, that we follow the rules, because only if we follow the rules can everyone have confidence that the process is fair.
I just want to understand, just this may be a bit technical, legal, but the lower court judge issued a writ of mandamus on the Wisconsin Election Commission.
That's right. That's right. And what that means is he found that they had a plain legal duty to deactivate these names if voters did not respond, if the people did not respond to a notice saying, "Look, we're going to deactivate your registration if you don't tell us otherwise."
Is this going to be resolved before the 2020 election, or what are the chances of that?
That's a great question. We've tried to. We have a couple of election cycles here in Wisconsin. We have a spring election cycle, which largely involves the Democratic presidential primary and a race for Wisconsin Supreme Court. And then we have the November election cycle. It would be, I think, a shame if the courts were unable to resolve this prior to the November election cycle. It seems to me the people of the state of Wisconsin,
be fraudulent,
the people of the state of Wisconsin and the people of the country deserve to have the state's higher court weigh in on this in time for the next very important election that we have here. It will be necessary for courts to work more quickly and for lawyers to work more quickly than they normally do in order for that to happen. We tried to get the Wisconsin Supreme Court to take the case up directly and bypass the Intermediate Court of Appeals. It split 3-3 on our request, so that's not going to happen for now. It might happen in the future. But
was the 3-3 on the Wisconsin Supreme Court? Was that partisan?
Well, we don't. No, it really wasn't. We don't elect our justices on a partisan basis.
Yeah, but
most people would say we have 5 conservatives and 2 liberals on the Wisconsin Supreme Court. One of the conservatives recused himself because he's on the ballot in the spring, and I think he didn't want to sit on a case that would, involve an election in which he's a candidate. And the conservatives went 3-1. And so they for whatever reason, maybe it's just they want to let the appellate court handle it before they could take it up. It could be a process thing, not necessarily a substantive thing. But on the substance, absolutely,
the arguments that are being made, the lawyer for the Wisconsin Elections Commission telling the lower court judge, hey, if you make us remove these people who shouldn't be on the voter rolls, that's just going to create chaos right now. So let's just keep them on for now, and we'll deal with them after the next election. I mean, what kind of argument is that?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. This data matching process is very, very accurate because the source of the information is the voter herself, right? You don't get on this movers list based on anything other than data that you have provided. And we think that the movers list is about 95% accurate. Now, it's not perfect. But any effort to maintain ballot integrity or to clean up the voter rolls is never going to be perfect. But here in Wisconsin, we have a lot of safeguards. Right? You get this notice. All you have to do is return the notice and your registration doesn't change. If for some reason you don't do that, I'm sure that the parties will be running extensive ground games and registering voters here in the state. You will be able to register online or by mail prior to the election.
Or on
If for
election
some
day, as
reason
you said. Yeah.
Yes, for some reason you don't do that, you can register on election day. You have to have proof of residence, but we're a photo ID state, and so most people are going to have that as a matter of course, or they would be unable to cast their ballot anyway.
Well, but also
it's really a very modest effort to clean up the rolls, but yet it's being greeted with hysteria.
Whether it was a modest effort or is a Herculean task is irrelevant. I get to say when I'm required to do my professional duties, hey, Your Honor, I know that's my professional responsibility, but it's just too onerous to do it over the next 10 months. So we'll get back to it in 2021, if that's okay with you. I mean, what kind of ridiculous argument is that?
Well, it would be, as you point out, right? If it's their job, it's their job. If that's what the law requires, it's what the law requires. But it's also not very onerous either. And so the sad fact here is that for whatever reason, the Election Commission simply doesn't want to comply with the law. If they have a disagreement, if they think that the law is too harsh or it should be more forgiving or it should be something other than what it is, then what bureaucrats need to do in that instance is they need to go to the legislature and they need to ask them to change the law. They don't get to remake it. And it's very important for us to understand that and recognize that the rule of law has to be respected. And this case is about that as much as it is about, voter rolls.
I want to get to your reaction to what your esteemed governor, Tony Evers, said, because, of course, the rule of law is a vast right-wing conspiracy. He said, this move, pushed by Republicans to remove 200,000 Wisconsinites from the voter rolls, is just another attempt at overriding the will of the people and stifling the democratic, small d, democratic process. How do you respond to that? Are all 200,000 people, 230,000 people, are they all Democrats that are, rock-ribbed Democrat voters that you're trying to remove?
No, first of all, they're not 234,000 people that are being purged by the rolls. These are largely names of people that are moved. And when Nancy Pelosi said that 234,000 people would be denied the opportunity to vote by our lawsuit, the Washington Post, of all places, gave her a pants on fire. Second, nobody knows the partisan or demographic characteristic of few people who might be on this list erroneously, right? People who haven't moved. The reasons that you might get on the list, even if you haven't moved, are things like you registered your car at your vacation home. You registered your car at your vehicle. You bought a car for your child, college-age child, and you registered at her school address and not your home address. That doesn't sound like poor, low-income people to me. All right, those people tend not to have vacation homes and businesses, and they don't buy cars for their college-age children. And so the idea that this is some partisan scheme of voter suppression is absolutely preposterous. And quite frankly, it's being said in order to jack up the base. Tony Evers was sending out fundraising emails within a couple of hours after the judge rules in this case. He knows better. He knows better than to make these kinds of hyperbolic claims, and I wish he wouldn't do it.
He is Rick Esenberg. He's the founder and current president and general counsel of the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. Thank you for joining us. Good luck with the case. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me on.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to podcasts of Dan and Amy from the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
I'm Amanda Zanger, owner of Black Industrial and Safety Supply in Hammond, Indiana, and a business customer of Signature Bank. Prior to owning my own business, I worked for a major financial institution. So when it came time to finance the acquisition of Black, I approached a big bank, only to receive a solid no. That's when Signature Bank stepped in. With Signature Bank, the process was different. Signature provided creative financing options that enabled me to purchase Black and continue to grow the business. Thanks to Signature Bank, Black Industrial is able to continue serving Fortune 500 industry fabricators and contractors with tools and safety supplies as we have since 1893.
Signature Bank is looking for their next success story. To learn more about turning your business vision into reality, visit signaturebank.bank. Signature Bank, helping local businesses succeed. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Do you own or run a thriving business in the Chicagoland area? Have you overcome obstacles to make your business what it is today? If that's your business, then AM 560 The Answer wants to tell your story on the AM 560 Business Tour 2020, presented by Signature Bank, Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson.